The OnePlus Nord is finally out, and here's my take. Hey there people, how you doing? So, the OnePlus Nord came out today, and man, before we talk about that device, can we just take a moment to appreciate just how freaking cool it looked in AR? I mean, look, yeah, I get it, virtual presentations and whatnot, but AR, I was blown away by it. I don't know how many of you were, but yeah, definitely. I think that all other phone launchers should go for AR. It'll be something else. So, other than that, yeah, the OnePlus Nord is not a flagship, nor is it a flagship killer. It's actually a new take on smartphones by OnePlus. It's a mid-ranger. And yes, OnePlus did also mention that they're somewhat going back to their roots and following their North Star for the right direction and so on and whatnot. But you know what? I think that they're in a small way wrong, because till date, OnePlus never actually manufactured a mid-range device. They have always gone for flagship killers, which means primarily the chipset they used was always the flagship level ones, and that is what truly differentiates a mid-range device from a flagship or even a flagship killer. I think that this is actually a very new and actually a fresh take on smartphones by OnePlus. They're focusing on a single mid-range device that kind of occupies like the exact center spot in terms of specs and price and so on. And yeah, that's a good thing. A new device and a completely new formula for it is pretty nice. But yeah, enough about their policies and their philosophy. Let's talk about the device, which, by the way, is no slouch, especially for that quite amazing price tag. Let's just start off with the design, which is actually not the best thing about it. And yeah, it's like the most obvious and mid-range thing about it, because I do believe that if they had gone for a matte finish, it would have quite easily differentiated from the scores of other mid-range devices out there. Because look, OnePlus and matte finish go quite well, and it would have kind of differentiated them from the other devices like the Oppo Reno series and I think the Samsung A series. Most of them have most probably a glossy finish, and having a matte finish would have really made sense for OnePlus to go for it. But they really didn't do it. Glossy blue marble and I think onyx gray is what we have available for us. But when we come over to the front, there, I'd say they have a lot more futuristic look, because even though they have a flat display, which is actually appreciated, and it also costs a little bit less, so in a mid-range it makes sense. But where they actually pull a step or two forward is in the bezels. They have, like, as far as I've seen in the demos and trailers, well, the Nord has some seriously small bezels, and it's quite impressive, to be honest. And if you were to look at other mid-ranges, not all of them have the best high-end and most refined designs. Rather, they have a slightly prehistoric look, if I might say so. But yeah, the Nord, on the other hand, has quite a good and almost a flagship level design. Of course, it's not curved, and I know some people don't appreciate curves, so I think that's a plus side in and of itself. Alright, look, the design was alright on the behind, but on the front, it was really good. And the display, in a very similar fashion, is also pretty damn amazing. Because if you think about it, the display that OnePlus shows here is a really good looking AMOLED panel. It's at 1080p, so I'd say decent pixel ratio, but where they really differentiate themselves from the rest of the pack is in having 90Hz. Having 90Hz on an AMOLED panel not only means that it'll look good with, the AMOLED tech being amazing in and of itself, but the 90Hz will ensure that you'll have one of the smoothest displays that you can have at that price point. And yeah, of course, it's not 120Hz, and I'm pretty sure that not a lot of people actually can differentiate between 90 and 120. So I guess it's really fine. Having a 90 Hz is more than enough for a mid-range device. And the Nord definitely hits a home run on this one. Now tying this all together, the software, which is Oxygen OS that we all know and love, has supposedly been fine-tuned so that more or less all of the tasks that we have on the daily will be smooth and give us that fluid 90 Hz experience overall. Now of course, this big promise of having 90 Hz through and through could be a little bit of a problem, but yeah, I'm pretty sure OnePlus can pull it off. They have always made sure that the tuning of the software to be the most efficient and light on the chipset is on point after all. Speaking of which, the chipset is also quite a good one actually this time around. And yeah, from predecessors, it is actually quite a bit more powerful, and it also supports 5G. So for those of you who can, have access to 5G, unlike here, well then definitely you're in for quite a nice little treat of super high-speed internet. And other than that, I'd say that overall the device is really compelling till now. But when it comes to cameras, I'd say that OnePlus saying that their cameras are flagship level, well, I'd say that they're maybe right in just one technical sense. The fact that the OnePlus 8, which has a 48 megapixel IMX586 sensor, is the same one being used in the OnePlus Nord. Well, that could maybe say that it's flagship level, but then again, it's also the one that was used in OnePlus 7T. So I guess it's not that special. But anyways, other than that, well, the ultra-wide camera is there. It's a good one, but it's not the best one. Again, it's an 8 megapixel small sensor. It won't give the highest quality photos. And the other two, well, the quad camera, it's not exactly quad after all. It's a pseudo quad, as I like to call it, because the 2 megapixel macro camera is barely usable, and the depth sensor is outright more or less useless. But on the front, with the selfie cameras, I believe OnePlus made one of the best decisions in terms of including the second sensor. And yeah, not only does it have a 32 megapixel wide shooter, which is quite good actually, and I'm expecting some really nice detail, but it also has an 8 megapixel ultra wide angle camera, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is just fantastic for group selfies. And another thing that really struck me as OnePlus being concerned about the user rather than just filling up the spec sheet is the fact that they included OIS in their cameras. Of course, not a lot of people will look at the spec sheet and think, oh my god, it's got OIS, we have to take that phone. No, mid-rangers don't really have OIS as such, but the fact that when a person buys a OnePlus Nord, they'll get the equally smooth experience even in the cameras and when they're taking videos, well, that is really impressive if you ask me. Next up, which is also quite impressive, is the battery. It's not like the biggest thing you'll see in the world, but yeah, it's got a sizable 4100 mAh battery, and that is, I'd say, good enough for a OnePlus device because, well, they tend to have really good and overall better battery life than the other ones because primarily of their efficiency and overall lightness of the skin that they have. But yeah, overall I'd say the battery life is nothing that most people will be concerned of. And I'd say it's a necessity to have a 4000 plus mAh battery because, well, that 90Hz display is going to be more power hungry than most of the mid-range displays out there. And of course, we are not left lacking on charging either. We have OnePlus's very own proprietary and much loved Warp Charge 30T. It's literally one of the best things out there, and it'll charge your phone from 0 to 70 in just 30 minutes, which is nothing less than fantastic. So that is what we know about the much anticipated OnePlus Nord. And yeah, of course, it's not like the best thing out there, but it's got a very well balanced overall feel, which is actually quite important when you're factoring in the fact that it's a mid-range device and not a high-end flagship which has to do everything. The mid-range devices like OnePlus Nord have to actually just do most of the things right and maybe just specialize in something like the OnePlus Nord does in displays. So I'd say that having the OnePlus Nord coming in at $400, I think that's the equivalent at least, well, it's basically one of the best things that has come out this year, and for most people, a phone like this will be quite a boon. So that was what we know about the OnePlus Nord. it was finally here. And well, after a whole month of very slow and tedious teasing from OnePlus, I'd say they kinda delivered what most of us were hyped up for. So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, do hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will be seeing you guys later. Cheers.